Kevin Sidebottom here, speaker, author, and trainer, and I go around the country and I teach sales organizations and leadership teams on how to build influence and trust with their teams so that way they can grow profits and revenues with their customers. Today, let's talk about why we need leadership in our business or in the workplace. Well, we need to have leadership because if there's no direction and no guidance, where are we all going to go? That's right. We need to understand and have a direction, and we need people to stand up and say, hey, this is where we need to go. This is how we're going to get there. Let's work on this together and bring people together to do what needs to be done to achieve the cause that we're after. If we have no leadership, everybody runs around and does whatever they want, and we don't typically get anywhere. So today, let's talk about what leadership is, how to grow your leadership skills, so in the future you could be moved into a leadership position. And if you're in a leadership position, maybe these tips and tricks will help you grow as well, so that way you can grow your capacity to lead more and grow in your organization or your workplace. And then I'm going to close out with one thing you can do tomorrow to actually come out looking like a rock star at home and in your workplace or your business, wherever you're at. So let's get started. Now, the first thing that leadership is influence. That's right. John Maxwell, who is the leadership guru of the 21st century, talks about this whenever he's on stage. And it's about leadership. Leadership, everything rises and falls on leadership is what he says. He also says leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. So by being a leader, we're influencing those people around us to move with us. I mean, think of it. If we're going out taking charge and we're going into the heat of battle and we have no influence over anybody on our teams, we're going to show up on the battlefield, turn around and realize we're outnumbered. So we need to have influence. And there's a lot that goes into influence. And I really talk about that in my trustworthy training and my sales training. Basically, get you into building rapport, trust, and influence, because that's what typical leaders do is they build that kind of thing. They build trust, they build influence. And that's why I always say, if you're going to get into leadership, you should know how to sell, because you have to sell your vision, your mission, your purpose to other people. And being in sales, you also know how to derive influence. So what can we do to grow our capacity? Well, mine started literally by getting into sales. Yep, that's right. If you look at a lot of the big leaders out there, they've had experience in sales. In one form or another, they were out selling because they understand how you build influence. Sales is building influence with your customers and the people around you. So you need to understand how they link up. Now, for us to grow in our leadership, we can't just say, okay, I'm going to go be a salesman for a year or whatnot, and then I'm done. We have to constantly be growing. So let's talk about 3 things we need to be doing when we want to grow into a leadership position. Okay? And those 3 things are constantly invest in ourselves, whether it's a training, whether it's reading books, listening to podcasts, whatever that looks like, we need to be doing that. We also need to have live fire experience. We need to jump in and take our capacity and make it bigger. So how do we do that? Well, live fire environments. Take in positions of leadership roles. And third, we need to be working on building relationships. Okay? So the first one we need to do is invest in ourselves. And I often recommend at least 1 training a year. Yep, that's right. There's tons of leadership trainings you can do every year. I mean, there's almost thousands of them out there. So you need to pick one, and what you need to go in thinking of is taking one bit of information that you can apply today and put it into your toolbox. You don't have to think of everything you have to do, because if you focus on everything, you may not get anything done. So focus on one thing. The second thing we need to do is supplement that with books and podcasts. There's tons of different podcasts out there. I recommend Entree Leadership. I know John Maxwell has them. There's tons of people out there that help you with leadership. If you're leaning more towards Navy SEALs, there's Jocko Willing and Unbeatable Minds. There's tons of podcasts out there. And there's tons of books. Reading is how we grow. And if we're not learning, we're not growing. And if you're not growing, well, you're dying. That's the old adage. So we need to be investing. Now here's a little tidbit what I do to read about 12 books a year. Ready? 10 pages a day. That's right. Just like eating an elephant, you do it one bite at a time. You read a book 10 pages at a time. If I read 10 pages a day, I can actually get through 300 pages a month. Well, typically, most months have 300 pages. And most business books and leadership books, well, they're under 300 pages. So you can typically do 12 books a year at least. Now, if you don't want to start there, do a book a quarter and map it all out. Start with your end game and work your way to it. But I often recommend you got to be reading, taking that quiet time to prep and to read and start your day other than reading emails, because you need to set the tone for your day and how you're going to plan. Okay? We also need to be jumping into live fire environments. What does that mean? Well, maybe we're leading some kind of training at our organization to get us comfortable speaking in front of people. Maybe it's taking that management position that people have been asking you to take. Maybe it's leading in an organization outside of work to help add value to a group of people, maybe young adults, maybe it's mentoring. But we need to be getting out there and growing our capacity. Because if we stay in our little bubble, we don't grow. We need to constantly take our capacity and keep growing it to help other people. And the more people we help, we actually generate influence. That's right, we do that. So let's talk about one other thing we can do that I often find leadership people in high level jobs and salespeople doing all the time. They overcommit and underproduce. That's right. They say, we're going to have this grand plan. We're going to hit it on this date. The date comes and nothing's happened and they fall short. It often happens. Okay? Well, what do? Well, you don't just not commit to anything, because then you just sound like a politician. And not really many people trust politicians these days. What we need to do is undercommit and overproduce. What that looks like is, hey, it's going to take me 5 days to complete this thing, or my team's going to take 30 days, or whatever it looks like. Well, when I learned about program management, what they do is they have this thing called float. They actually buffer in a little extra on their projects. What happens is you're going to have a little bit of lag on some areas and you'll go a little faster in some areas, but you have this little bit of buffer and you say, by this date, I'm going to hit it. Okay? And if you do that, well, great. You build trust and everybody's going, you're competent. But if you have that date and you actually hit the sooner date that you're actually planning, well, now you've overproduced. You've undercommitted and overproduced. When you do that enough times, everybody looks at you and goes, man, you're a rock star. All you're really doing is being a little tiny bit conservative on your dates or your timing or expectations. But you want to constantly overachieve that. You want to make sure you're doing better. So, as a leader, constantly grow. That's by doing trainings. Invest in yourself. Invest in your teams as well. We also need to be going out, supplementing that, doing some other kind of live fire trainings, which is us getting out in front of people and helping and leading in some capacity or another. And we often want to overachieve our expectations. All right? I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions about this video and the content, feel free to reach out. Any of my trainings, I have the links below to get you to my site and everything. If you like this video and it was helpful, hit like, share, subscribe, give it to somebody else that might benefit from it. That's why I do these videos, to help you and to help other people. Okay? We'll see you next time.